Okay, here's a little follow-up. I have to do another video about this. I had made a video called Why Jews Are Good with Money according to a Jewish person who explained that Jewish people throughout history were always kind of being forced out by their own cultures, and they were forced to handle their money much more tightly than other people, and that's why ultimately they became culturally known as better at handling money. Completely nothing but respect. That's coming from a Jewish person himself saying that. And Olivia Gomez had said at the end of her comment on that, as she was kind of having a moment of reckoning, because at first she thought I was generalizing, but then I think she realized, well, there's a reason why Jewish people are known for this, and now that she heard it from someone who's officially Jewish, I think she had a change of heart on that. But I do want to address the end of her comment when she said this, quote, "The Jewish people do have a long history of being money men, and it is in their culture, but that isn't genetic," end quote. So what I want to do is immediately agree with you, Olivia. Absolutely. I would never, I'm sorry, and I apologize if I ever made it seem like I believe that if you're Jewish, or even distantly Jewish like I am, that automatically just, it's in my genes to be good with money, you know, and then I'm dancing and throwing money in the air, and no, not at all. The whole fact that my mom and I were talking about that, I feel if you go back and watch that video, what you're going to see is, are we making generalizations about Jewish people being good with money? Absolutely. In a positive way, in a respectful way, in a celebratory way. We're celebrating that. But I hope that I would have to think I never said anything that said because it's in our DNA that actually is the reason people would be good at handling money. So let me officially say what I really feel, what I really think, just to set the record straight. I feel that though my great-grandmother was apparently Sephardic Jewish, and she died when my grandfather was only 8 years old, I feel that there was enough culturally as she raised him to the age of 8 that got through to him, being her son, and being the most frugal person in my entire family with money. I feel it's not a coincidence. I think with her history of being Jewish and everything that led up to her being alive and the whole history of her family with that Jewish lineage, as she raised her son, even though she died when he was only 8, she passed enough on to him culturally as his mother for him to become the best money manager of the entire family that I've ever known in my life. So it's not that it was because of the DNA, it was because of the culture that was passed down. And even just those 8 years that he was alive, he got enough of that to pass it along to my mom, to therefore pass it along to me. There's a reason I drive a 2004 Honda Element with 179,000 miles on it. It's paid off, and it's been paid off for well over a decade. I'm not out here to impress people with what I drive. In fact, if I ever stumble into a lot more money, I'm still not going to be driving a nice new car. To me, that's a compliment to the Jewish mentality as far as managing money. You don't want to show off. You actually want to privately do well and keep it on the down low. To me, that goes back to the history of why Jewish people are known for being good at handling money. They always had to kind of keep it a secret. They were very conservative when it came to manage their money and not flaunting it. To me, that's the historical context of Jewish people handling money. And that's how I think. How did I become that way? My mom. How did she become that way? Her dad. How did he become that way? His mother, who passed away when he was only 8 years old, and she was 38 years old, and she was Sephardic Jewish. I don't think that's a coincidence. It's not because of genetics. Now, I will say this. She was apparently Jewish. Her DNA was Jewish, but her culture was Jewish. Her history was Jewish. And therefore, I only have this mentality because of that culture that was handed down. But that culture rode on top of the DNA. So no, I do not believe that if you're Jewish, it's in your DNA to be good with money. I believe it's in your culture based on your DNA. Because of your DNA, you're all the way back in history, you were forced to find some kind of trade, become good at it, pass it on to your offspring, while showing them how to be very discreet as you handle this money. because you were forced to. You couldn't be involved in your society like the Christians were able to, for example. Okay? So it's that simple. There's nothing magical about it. Jewish people aren't just innately good with handling money. It's generations of persecution and generations of discipline that caused that to happen. But I do feel, I 100% believe, if it weren't for my great-grandmother, who happened to apparently be Sephardic Jewish, I don't think that I would be this way and be so in tune with making money and managing money and finding out ways to outsmart the free market. I think absolutely 100% that's because of my great-grandmother and what she passed on through those 8 years that she coexisted while my grandfather was still alive. And I think it absolutely is present in the fact that I grew up with that grandfather in my life. He was very present, and I saw how he lived his life. I saw how he didn't live in debt. He lived way below his means. It's cultural. It's not genetic. It's obviously culture riding on top of DNA, because those Jewish ancestors wouldn't have had those struggles if it weren't for their DNA. But because that, it produced that culture, which I believe generations later has been passed down to me. I hope that clears it up. This is a very intelligent and important conversation that maybe other people couldn't have, but I think on this channel we can. We're emotionally intelligent. We can handle the truth.